Namaste. Welcome everyone for today's webinar on the geochronology of the Rigveda. What an interesting topic we have today. Our special guest, our speaker is Dr. Jijit Nadamuri Ravi. And I'm so excited about this webinar. I was just reading more, and every webinar, we learn so much. Let me just launch a quick poll. Let us know if you've been on a webinar before. And right, just looking at so much history. And in this webinar, we're going to look at, like I said, the geochronology of the Rigveda. And we're going to journey into the Rigvedic period through geographic maps, chronology charts, and research materials that Dr. Raviji has extensively put together and written a whole book on. So in this webinar, we're going to introduce the 41 hydronyms, kind of the river names in the Rigveda, and the unique rivers mentioned in it. So we'll analyze the migration pattern of the Rigvedic people, which actually refutes the Aryan invasion and migration mythology. Dr. Jidit will go through the sequence in which the rivers are mentioned in the Rigveda, and using this, we'll see that there was an east to west migration from what is today's Haryana to Afghanistan. And it really gives strong evidence for that out of India theory using the Rigveda. And we're going to get more into that in today's webinar. Gigi, thank you for being on with us. You want to give a quick audio check and let people know where you're zooming in from. And if you haven't as an audience member, put in the chat where you're zooming in from. Gigi?
Namaste. Is my audio clear?
Good, yes.
Yep.
And where are you zooming in from?
I'm from Bangalore.
Nice. Welcome, welcome. Mohanji from Orlando, thank you for joining. Vijayaji from Kunur, Mangala from Atlanta, Dr. Sherry Lindemood from Central Florida, Shirajji from Bangalore, who's this? Stevens from New York City, Jana from Hartford, Kentucky, namaste. Minaji from MI, is that Mississippi? Welcome, Michigan. Bob from Sandy Springs near Atlanta. Thank you for joining. Nageshji from Washington. Glad to have all of you with us today from wherever you are joining. Naliniji from Pune. Wonderful, wonderful. Archanaji from Winchester. Thank you for joining. I've got the little poll up. Let us know if this is your first webinar, if you're a regular, you've attended before, if you've taken HUA courses, thinking about it, or if you're not interested in courses and you're just here for the webinar, thank you for joining. Let me now introduce Dr. Ravi. Jijit he's a former scientist at ISRO, right, the Space Research Organization. He's an electronics and communication engineering graduate. He's got an MBA in information technology, and in our conversation, it's managing all of this information and then presenting it in a way that's digestible and explains things that he's so good at. He has 25 years of experience researching in the subject of geography and chronology of the Rigveda, Ramayana, and the Mahabharata. He's done analysis of all, or at least some of these important itihasas in geography and chronology. He's published dozens of research articles about Mahabharata geography, which includes ISRO's IRS imagery of the Saraswati River. He's published now 3 books, Rivers of the Rigveda, Geography of Ramayana, and Geography of Mahabharata. That's a 2-volume book, which is a geochronology trilogy focused on the geography and chronology from the Rigvedic period onwards. I'm not going to read his whole bio. It is extensive. He's appeared on news channels like Times Now. He's amazing to have, and we're going to really appreciate him as a speaker today in the way that, the couple meetings that we had where you presented so much information and built the argument and shared so much. I'm really looking forward to today's webinar, Dr. Ravi. So with that introduction, Please take us on a journey through the chronology, the geochronology of the Rigveda.
Yeah, thanks, Ankur, for this wonderful introduction. I hope I am audible, and I'm warmly welcome the audience from the diverse part of the world. And this will be kind of an introductory talk and a webinar on the topic that we go extensively in the form of a course in 2025. But this will be kind of a brief introduction to the subject and how we approach the analysis of the Rigveda, and how we use the river hydrology, the rivers mentioned in the Rigveda, to identify the migratory patterns that are found inside the Rigveda, and how do we use that to basically to prove the out of India theory, that is the migration of people from somewhere in the Haryana to the Punjab and to us for West as Afghanistan, that we can have a trace inside the Rigveda and its complete refutation of the Aryan invasion theory, or its new variant called the Aryan migration theory. So with that introduction, let me try moving the slides. I hope I have the ability to move the slides. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, Archana ji from Winchester, Virginia, thank you for joining. Atul ji from Troy, Michigan, glad to have you on. If you think somebody else might be interested in joining, please share this Zoom link and have them join. Dilip ji from Maryland, a regular, glad to have you on. Are you able to share?
Yes, I think the share is visible now.
Yes, great.
Yeah, yes. So that's kind of an introduction which I have already the organization, the host has mentioned. So I just move to the next slide. So this is a kind of summary for all the 4 books I have authored. The first one being the Rivers of Rigveda, and it is focused on the geochronology of Rigveda, obviously, with a great deal of focus on the rivers. And then its continuity, I have authored the geography of Ramayana, because surprising to many, there are a lot of kind of overlaps between Rigveda and Valmiki Ramayana, with some mention of Sri Rama inside the 10th mandala of the Rigveda. And again, maybe surprising to many, but not necessary to everybody. There is a kind of intersection of the Mahabharata. That is there is a mention of Shantanu inside the Rigveda 10th mandala. So that there is an intersection of a little bit of Mahabharata inside the Rigveda. So that is the kind of continuity that we have in the 3rd book, that is the geography of Mahabharata. So it is a 2-volume book. So that's what I have shown here. So these are the kind of 3 books, and these 3 books are authored in a kind of a geochronology series, in the sense the word geochronology implies that we actually focus and analyze both the geography and the chronology. And the term geochronology actually emphasizes the fact that both the geography and chronology are interrelated, something like space-time. Where whatever happens in time, it's also have a kind of a footprint inside the space or the place. So that's the kind of conceptualization we have. So that's what geochronology is all about. And all these books are available in the Amazon, in all the geographies like India or Europe or in the USA. So our current this topic and the course and the subject of this webinar is the geochronology of Rigveda. And I'll have I just move this into the other points. So this is the kind of the book in the book cover. So almost a lot of the contents inside the book is already reflected in the cover of the book. So basically, we follow through the different rivers mentioned in the Rigveda, like it is spread across eastern Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Punjab. Sorry, the western Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Punjab, and the the Pakistan side of the Punjab, and all the way to Afghanistan. And you can see many rivers in the Kashmir area. So this is the kind of geographical span of the Rigveda, which we can identify based on the names of the rivers mentioned in the Rigveda. So that is the kind of primary focus. But of course, it has got a lot of chronological as well as other aspects, because inside the Rigveda, I have did some introductory focus onto the Devatas mentioned in the Rigveda, the concepts, philosophical concepts mentioned in the Rigveda, and the lineage of kings, the royal dynasties mentioned in the Rigveda, as well as ascetic lineages like Vasishta, Vishwamitra, or Gautamas, or Bharadwaja, Atri. So many such Rishi lineage, Rishi Vamsha. Similarly, Rajavamsha, that is royal lineages of the Ikshwakus, and the Bharata lineage. And there are also mentioned about events like Dashrajana battle, Varshagira battle, Battle of Sarayu, Battle of Yamuna, or Battle of Asikni. So many different events that has happened in the Rigvedic period mentioned in the various suttas, including the Dashrajana battle. So this is more or less the kind of content of this particular book. And if we move forward, so of course, so many scholars have given, like Dr. Conradels have given the foreword as well as endorsement to the book, and Dr. David Frawley is another endorser, Vishal Agrawal, Dr. Rajvedam, Ajay Chaturvedi, and Manoshi Sinha from India. So all these people have given the kind of endorsements, forwards to this book. And this is a small kind of slide where you can know the different ways in which you can purchase this book, like in the Amazon India or in Amazon.com or UK. In India, it is available in Flipkart as well, and the book is available in the Kindle format, Amazon Kindle or Kobo, Google Play Store, iBooks, etc. And there are certain additional resources I have provided for the readers in terms of additional maps, which are very important for the subject because there is geography involved in it. So if after reading the book, if they want to refer more detailed maps, those maps are provided online publicly in this website, one of my website, where there is a page called Rivers of Rigveda in this dharmadigital.in, where you have a lot of information. Similarly, then you can use it as a study material because it's publicly and freely available. There are a lot of maps. Similarly, there is another website, Ancient Voice, which I have set up with 25,000 pages in 2009. And it contains an entire wiki of, wiki means like some similar to Wikipedia, entire wiki of the Rigveda. So there are some noun analysis provided, around 7,000 nouns in the Rigveda, and the suttas, the various the 1,028 suttas in the Rigveda, and with classified into 10 mandalas. That is a very structured manner. I have put it into the wiki format into the Wikipedia, and that is another study material that anybody want to go deeper into the Rigveda, not only for geography, but also for understanding the suttas, the devatas, and other philosophical concepts in the Rigveda in detail. So these are the two study materials that additionally you have the maps here in the Dharma Digital, which is a new website which is established in 2020, and the old website in 2009. We have the wiki format of the Rigveda. And maybe this is a 1 hour session, so I will give a kind of brief flavor of the course. Of course, the courses will be structured in the same format of the chapters in the book. So it's a good that I go through some of the chapters. So of course, there are introductions and the summary of the Rigvedic chronology. And there is a chapter completely on the Rajavamsha, the royal lineages inside the Rigveda, the Panchajanas, that is the Yadu, Turvasu, Druhyu, Anu, that 5 tribes. So Yadu, Turvasu, then Druhyu, Anu, Puru tribes. Then the Trutsus, that is a kind of a Bharata lineage, very special Bharata lineage. Then Parthavas, which are like somewhat related to the Iranian lineages. And then there is a Trikshi lineage, which is one of the Ikshwaku lineage, actually very interesting. Then Shariatas and various other Puru kings. And then the Rigvedic rishis, or the poets, So we have Vasishta, Vishwamitra, all the rishis, Rishi Munis. Before the Rigvedic period, there are certain rishis who lived before the Rigvedic period. They are also mentioned in the Rigveda, and then others are composers into the Rigveda. That is, they lived during the composition period of the Rigveda, actually. Then you have the Rigvedic Devatas, so Indra, Agni, and then Vishnu, Yama, all the Devatas, Vayu, then the Ashwini, the Devatas, Pushan. So many Devatas are also mentioned. So these chapters are like gives a kind of introduction to the Rigveda, so that the subject matter, the geography is introduced later, because the student or anybody going to the course, they should get a kind of a basic grip on the Rigveda in terms of the basic topics or basic aspects of the Rigveda in terms of the rishis, the kings, and the devatas. And then we focus on the basic introduction of the Rigvedic the rivers. So we do a chronological analysis of the entire river data, and then the Rigvedic geography, how it is expanded. That initial, the bird's eye view of how the Rigvedic geography is expanding stage by stage, and then we focus on to this some regions mentioned in the Rigveda. The most important region is the Varaprithvya, which is also known as Kurukshetra, and then you have Sapta Sindhu, that is the Punjab river, Sapta Sindhu, then Sharyanavat region, the Gandharva region, then the Kikada, Matsya, Chedi, some Janapada names, very few Janapada names in etc. Then we follow the very meticulous detailed analysis of the rivers. So starting with some rivers in the Haryana like Hariupia and Yavyavati, then Ganga, then Saraswati, then Drashadwati, a tributary of Saraswati, Apaya, another tributary of Saraswati. Then the Punjab rivers, the Bias Satluj for Vipash and Sududri, then Yamuna river, then Parushni. So these rivers are mentioned in the order in which they appear inside the Rigveda, after we chronologically sequence the mandalas of the Rigveda. That's why we have it like this. So one of the oldest river mentioned is Ganga, which is a very interesting thing, which is also a clue to the direction of migration. Because then Ganga, then Saraswati, the Shadwati, etc. And then the Parishni river comes. The Parishni is after this Saraswati, Drashadwati, and Apaya, which are in Haryana. Even Hariupia, Yavyavati are in Haryana. Ganga, of course, in the western Uttar Pradesh. You get the Punjab rivers, Vipas and Sududri. Then, of course, Yamuna comes in between, but you have Parushni river, which is the border river of India and Pakistan, the Ravi river. And then Asikni, the Chenab river, which is a little more further. Then Vibali, which is another distributary of the Jalam river. Then Sindhu river. Then Sarayu river. So that is this is not to be confused with the Uttar Pradesh Sarayu, but as Sarayu in the western side, a tributary of Indus. That's Sarayu river. And then there are some other rivers, some local rivers again back in the Haryana. So this migration up to here, this is going in the westward direction. And then you have there are the other rivers like Upha and Krumu. Upha is basically the Kabul river, so it's the Afghan river. So you have once you actually plot the rivers, that it automatically gives you an east to west migration. So even from the table of content, it is slightly obvious, but more tables are there in the book, which gives you the very good clarity now how the rivers are mentioned progressively in the Rigveda from east to west direction. So like that, we cover all the rivers like Arjagya, Sushoma, Rasa, then Anitaba, Gomati, Mahatnu, Tratsama, Shoshartu, Svetya, all these rivers. And Amshum, some rivers, they are like duplicate names or synonymous names of the original river itself. Like Amshumati is another name for Yamuna. But we will analyze those, and this Marudvrata, Vitasta, then Vajnavadi, Urnavadi, and Silamavadi. Then you have a big chapter on the Samudra, because Samudra is an important part of the Rigveda. With the Aryan invasion theory, people, they downplay it actually. Because for them, it is very difficult to have Samudra inside the Rigveda. So they completely downplay all the mention about Samudra, but we have full chapter on it. And more than twice the mention of Saraswati, we have Samudra mentioned in the Rigveda, which very clearly tells that the Rigvedic people should be somewhere in the ocean. It should be somewhere in not in the Central Asia or Afghanistan, such places. They cannot be there. They know ocean and they have some connection with ocean. And then we compare the Rigvedic geography with the archaeology. So we establish that connection. Archaeological span of the Harappan civilization and the Rigvedic geographical span, and then finally goes to the conclusions. And of course, have atlases and other appendices, all that aspects. So this gives you a kind of a summary of the course as well as the book. And we also follow this Sanskritam IAST notation inside it. And this is the kind of this triangle. I represent a triangle because it's a very powerful symbolism. The triangle actually represents the Rigveda, because in the three corners of it, you have the three aspects, central aspect of the Rigveda, that is Devatas, then the patrons, that is the kings, who are like Divodas, Asudas, like that, lot of Rajas, kings. And you have the rishis or the poets or the composers like Gautama, Kanva, etc. And you have 10,552 rigs, that is verses in the Rigveda, 1,028 suktas and 10 mandalas. So that is the kind of threefold classification of the Rigveda. Of course, there exists other kind of classification, but we follow the threefold classification of 10 mandalas, 1,028 suktas, and 10,552 verses. So when it is Mahabharata and Ramayana, we call it sloka, but in the Rigveda, it is called rik. Rik means a single verse, 2-line verse. So that is how we have. And of course, the geography and chronology are not a central aspect of the Rigveda. Everybody knows it. But our focus of study is that. So that is why our current course is on the geography and chronology, like that. And there is so many other philosophical concepts that we have analyzing it, like what is the meaning of Apaurisheya concept of the Rigveda, because many people, when they say that we study the Vedas, immediately they ask about Apaurisheya concept. So that also very briefly mentioned inside of the book. Now what is when you actually study geography and chronology of Rigveda, what exactly means Apaurisheya? So that also very detailed discussions are there in that. So all this, the entire notion of Apaurisheya, that is eternal knowledge, that is very much true in terms of Rigveda, but it is not applicable to the geography and chronology, because these are actually time bound and space bound. So, but this, what is the Apaurisheya? What is the eternal principles? These are like, the basic philosophical core of the Rigveda, which is distilled into the Upanishads. So then that is why we have the words Aptavakyas, like Prajnanam Brahma, I am Atman Brahma, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. So these particular Aptavakyas captures the essence of the Rigveda, and of course all other Vedas into the Upanishads. So that is the true Apaurisheya. So that distinction also we focus a little bit to understand the philosophical positioning of Rigveda, as well as the studies such as geography and chronology to the Rigveda. And this is again kind of a snapshot of how the knowledge information system inside the Rigveda is structured. So there is a concept called Anukramani, or the table of content. Just like my book has a table of content, like an index. The Rigveda itself have a table of content or index, wherein you have the sukta number, the devata who is representing that sukta, and the rishi who is composing that sukta, and the meter, the poetic meter, like Gayatri, Pankti, that then Jagadi, Trishtu, Banushtu. So many poetic meter. So each sukta, each poetry, sukta is also a poetry. So each poetry or sukta each poetry or sukta have a dedicated composer to that poetry. So there is a notion in many people that the Rigveda is not authorless. No, that is not true. Every sukta, 1,028 sukta have an author or a composer, a rishi. And all the sukta have a devata, and they have a chandas, a meter, like Gayatri, Pankti, etc. So this is how the Rigveda is structured. And of course, it has got this number, hymn number. That is sukta number, means it's a 2-digit number, two-part number, like 1.1. If it is a rig, there is a 3-part number, like 1 dot, 101 dot, something like 33. Like that, it will be shown. And yeah, this is a very kind of very important in terms of geography as one of the surprising result of the analysis, of course, in our course, this will be very clear, but is that when we talk about Rigvedic geography, because every text has its own geography, right? How do you arrive at a geography? The overall geography of a text is by plotting all the places mentioned in the text, or all the rivers mentioned in the text, like that. So once you put all the geographical components mentioned in a text, you get the geography of that text. So like that, we have a Rigvedic geography. We mapped it, the entire Rigvedic geography. What are the places mentioned in the Rigveda? Of course, Rigveda primarily focus on the rivers. So all the rivers, sum total of all the rivers mentioned in the Rigveda, you get a map like this. And of course, Samudra is there, so that's why you get this part. Like these are all Samudra. Around 4 types of Samudras are mentioned in the Rigveda. So you can see that for 1, 2, 3, 4 Samudra also inside. So and the other rivers. So easternmost river is the Ganga river. Of course, the western part of the Ganga river is mentioned in the Rigveda. And of course, it also shows the westernmost past, one of the tributary of Sindhu, that is the Kupha river, which is today known as the Kabul river. So from western Uttar Pradesh up to eastern Afghanistan is covered by the Rigveda. That is the geographical span of Rigveda. In the northern side, it covers many rivers in Kashmir. And in the southern side, it covers the ocean. So typically the oceans around Gujarat. So it is called the Southern Ocean or the Dakshina Samudra. Because as far as Rigvedic geography is concerned, the oceans around Gujarat is the Dakshina Samudra. And of course, the Rann of Kutch was not a marshy marshland at that time. It was a proper sea. It was an ocean, or it was a samudra, because there was boats coming and going in that area. So we have in the Gujarat area, if you see, there are 4 oceans or 4 sea samudras. One is Rann of Kutch, another is the samudra between these mouths, and there is another is the proper Arabian Ocean, and another is the Gulf of Campeche. So these 4 oceans are mentioned in the Rigveda. So that's why Rigvedic geography is like. And what is surprising is that this geography is perfectly or very much matching with the another geography called the Indus Valley Harappan Civilization geography. And this is where the kind of surprise catch you, because whatever Rigvedic geography, when we plot it in a map, it perfectly aligns or matches with the Harappan geography. Because the Harappan cities, whatever we call Harappan, is a misnomer. Basically, it is currently renamed as Saraswati Sindhu Narmada civilization. Because there are certain Harappan sites or IVC sites along Narmada also. And this is the Daimabad, the southernmost Harappan site. Similarly, Alangirpur is the easternmost Harappan site, very close to the Ganga river. And you have Manda in the Kashmir as part of the Harappan site, and the Shodgai, which is way into the Afghanistan, northern point of the northern border of Afghanistan with Central Asia. Again, part of the Harappan civilization. And you have Suktandor, that is to the west of this in the Sindh Balochistan region. This is the entire huge geographical span of the Harappan civilization, almost 1/4 of India. And same, the Rigvedic geography also is 1/4 of India, and it is the northwestern part of India. So you have an equation coming out, that is the Harappan, IVC Harappan or Saraswati Sindhu civilization, or better named as Saraswati Sindhu Narmada civilization. Or of course, the river Narmada is not mentioned in the Rigveda, so we can just exclude the Narmada part of it, but Samudra is definitely there. So that geography is perfectly in sync or match with the Rigvedic geography. And you have another thing, because earlier people were only studying about the Harappans, Harappan cities, Harappan like that. But no, subsequently, starting with the Professor B.B. Lal to Dr. Sanjay Manjul and so many other archaeologists, we have another culture which is contemporary to the mature Harappan and the late Harappan period, and that is called ore-colored pottery and copper pot culture. So this is an archaeological culture similar to the Harappan culture, that is IVC Harappan culture. We have another culture which is contemporary. And this culture is extending up to eastern Uttar Pradesh. That means, whatever we mentioned in the Itihasas, like the Kuru Janapada, the Panjala Janapada, Matsya Janapada, and Trigarta. All these are part of this particular, and even Ayodhya, that is Kosala and Kashi, these are all part of the ore-colored pottery, copper-hoard culture. So this actually this particular culture is more or less contemporary to the Pandavas, like Rama and this Pandavas, that is both the Rama era and the Pandava era, are all connected to this particular ore-colored pottery culture, because all the dominant kingdoms mentioned in the Ramayana and Mahabharata is covered by the ore-colored pottery, copper hoard. Actually, of course, there are other kingdoms mentioned in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, like Madra, Kekeya, Gandhara, which are all part of the IVC Harappan geography. It's already covered by IVC Harappan, that is a Harappan geography. So you have on all the archaeological support for Aitihasic period already by this. And there is another component which is very less talked about, is that there is a culture which is very much confined to the Narmada river, something like a Gangatic civilization culture. That's the culture and the kingdoms which are developed in the Ganga region. There was another culture in the Narmada region, and it is also very much connected with the Ramayana. But it is a subject matter of my second book, that is Geography of Ramayana. So I'm not dealing with much about it. And now these are the kind of the basic fundamentals of the chronology, of the Rigveda. So as I mentioned, there are 10 mandalas to the Rigveda, and if you look at it has the number in which the mandalas in chronologically, when you put it, they are not exactly same like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Instead, we have the 6th mandala as the oldest mandala, and then comes the 3rd mandala, then comes the 7th mandala. So this numerical like 6, 3, 7, that is sequenced and arranged based on the lineage list that is seen in the Rigveda. Like for example, the Rishi lineage, Agastya or Bharadwaja or Vasishtha or Vishwamitra lineage. So father-son relationships be not the father-son relationship, that is the ancestor-descendant relationship for the Rishi Vamsha. Similarly, we note down the ancestral and descendant relationship of a Raja Vamsha. So who is the ancestor, who is the descendant. For example, Divodasa is the ancestor of Sudas, and Divodasa, the king Divodasa, is mentioned as a contemporary to the 6th mandala. And after that, the 3rd and 7th mandala, you have Sudas, his descendant Sudas, as the contemporary king. So each mandala can have contemporary kings, that is the kings who are living in that period. And the Rigveda, the mandalas are authored in different generations, not in the same generation, etc. So the 6th mandala is composed during the lifetime of Divodasa, when Bharadwaja was his priest, one Bharadwaja Rishi. So when I say Bharadwaja, Vishwamitra, Vasishtha, these are all Rishi Vamsha. So these not be actually unique names of a Rishi. There can be many Bharadwajas, many Vishwamitras, many Vasishtas. So when we say Vishwamitra, it will be multiple Rishis of that name in belonging to the Vishwamitra lineage. Similarly, Bharadwaja means there will be more than one Bharadwaja, including his son and grandson, great-grandson. All of them use the term Bharadwaja to designate themselves. So this is another important point. So, but one of the Bharadwaja was the main priest of the Divodasa. So that is the 6th mandala is all about. And in the this Sudas period, the 2 mandalas are ordered in the Sudas period because it was a very productive period. So both the Vishwamitra mandala, that is the 3rd mandala, and Vasishtha mandala, that is the 7th mandala, is ordered during the period of Sudas. Sudas was the king. And the Vishwamitra mandala is slightly older than the Vasishtha mandala, because Vishwamitra was the oldest priest of Sudas. After Vishwamitra retired, then Vasishtha became a priest of Sudas. And during the period of Vasishtha, Sudas conquered the region up to the Parushni river. That was the context of the Dasharajana battle. Parushni is a river which is bordering India and Pakistan. And earlier to that, during the period of Vishwamitra, Sudas conquered up to the Punjab. We passed through the Punjab rivers, Satluj, Bias, and he also conquered the Yamuna river, Yamuna region. Some kings, enemy kings in the Yamuna region is conquered by Sudas. Some other kings in the this Bia Satluj Punjab region is conquered by Sudas, and this Dacharajana battle also took place, after which he conquered the regions to the west of the Parishni River, that is a Ravi River, that is to the Pakistan, current Pakistan region. And then you have Sahadeva and Somaga, two descendants of Sudas, and they reflect the period of the first mandala. The first mandala is a little bit complicated because it has got segments, different segments, early, mid, and late, and general A and B, etc. Which is spread across with running parallel to the other mandalas. But of course, more or less, you can see it like this. And after that, the middle Rigvedic period, you have fourth mandala and the second mandala. And then you have the fifth mandala onwards, the late Rigvedic period. That is, the fifth mandala is dominated by Atri Rishi. And the eighth mandala is a mixed mandala where multiple composers are authoring it. So it's also late. And the ninth is a Soma mandala, where all the suktas related to Soma, that is the Amrita or Soma, the Soma cult. So Soma is collected together into the ninth mandala. And the last is the 10th mandala, where you have Shantanu and his brother Devapi mentioned. Rama is mentioned in the 10th mandala. And after that, of course, once you have Shantanu in the 10th mandala, obvious consequence is that Shantanu's son Vichitravirya son Dhritarashtra and Pandu, and Pandavas and Pandavas, and that Kurukshetra war period is after 10th mandala. So this is the kind of relative chronology that we get from the Rigveda. And we will elaborate it very detailed. And of course, now we focus on to various other concepts like what is Gotra and what is Kula, Vamsha. So all this we detail out. And here are certain charts which tells you the kind of granular level chronology of the Rigvedic mandala. So this is the mandala. This means the mandala 2, mandala 3, mandala 4, 5, 6. So in these mandalas, certain this blue colored or green colored, these are late suktas. So once you actually define chronology at a higher level, we said like the mandalas are his sequence like this. But this is like a higher level sequencing. Like sixth is the oldest, third is the after that third, then seventh, then fourth, then second, fifth, eighth, the ninth, then 10th. But within that mandalas itself, some suktas are little relatively older later. So this is the some 5 suktas in the third mandala is reported as late suktas in the Aitareya Brahmana. And there is some studies by Oldenburg. He's a kind of Indologist. He also figured out these blue colored suktas in various mandalas are relatively late. So we use the term relatively late to say that within the mandala they are later. Within that mandala, these suktas are later, because this information should be known to a researchers to sequence the river migration properly. This much level of granularity is required. So similarly, the first mandala map, you can see the first map of the first mandala, where various rishis, like you can see other different parts of it, like Agastya is authoring some part of it, Dirgadama is authoring, Gautama is authoring some, composing some, Kanva, Methadidi. So various rishis authoring different parts of the first mandala, because first mandala is a complicated mandala, I mentioned, right? So different parts are authored by different rishi munis, etc. And here, if you look at, this is a kind of, as I mentioned, there are lineage, the royal lineages. So this is the royal lineage of various kings mentioned in the Rigveda, and how much past they are. There is a Iranian dynasty here, which is leading to Kavi Chayamana, and there is a Tritsu Bharata clan, which is a kind of branch of a Bharata lineage, which is like I mentioned, the Bharata, Devavada, Srinjaya, Vadhyashva, Divodasa, I mentioned Divodasa, Pratardana, Pijavana, then Sudas. He is the 6th mandala contemporary. He is the 3rd mandala contemporary. Then Sahadeva and Somaga, who are into the later period, in the middle Rigvedic period. And their descendant is the Panchalas. Panchala, that is Panchala Janabada. Similarly, there are other Bharatas. So you have Bhumanyu, Supotra, Jamida, Riksha, like that. And then Kushika lineage of Vishwamitra comes from that. And from Ajamida, another lineage starts here. And Samvarana who is the ancestor of Kuru, and then you have Kuru and Pratibha, Devapi, and Shantanu. And this Shantanu line leads to Pandavas and Kauravas. So you have the other Bharatas, their ancestors as mentioned in the Rigveda. Ancestors of Panchalas are mentioned in the Rigveda. Some Iranian kings' ancestors are mentioned in the Rigveda. And then some Ikshwaku kings. So Trikshi is one of the branches of the Ikshwakus. Some kings like Puruputra and Trasadasyu belonging to the Ikshwakus mentioned in the Rigveda. And similarly, there are the Haiheyas, Sunahotra, Vitahavya, all these people are mentioned. So this is the royal lineage actually. And you have the ascetic lineage like Angiras, Bhrigu, all these people mentioned inside the Rigveda. So Agastya, Kutsa, and then the Bhargavas, there are Bhrigu lineage, Bhargavas are there. Angiras lineage, Bharadwajas are there, Vishwamitras are there. So many Rishi Munis are mentioned inside this book. And these are like the Apri Suktas or special kind of Suktas dedicated to each poetic family, the Rishi Gotras, etc. And later on, now actually after getting to know about all these things, we focus on to the rivers. So rivers means we start with the hydronyms, that is means the river names. So when I say river name, these are like blindly we are putting all the names which are related to the rivers. So we get 45 such names. So all of them may be river name, may not be river name. So that is why this is called hydronyms, the names of some river-like entities. So 45 we get total. And then we analyze them in detail to understand whether it is a river, really river or not, like that. And here is the kind of signature map of each river, the hydronym. Now 45 hydronyms, and which are the places where it is mentioned. Like Saraswati is mentioned 70 times in total Rigveda. And this is the kind of signature that is in the various mandalas, sixth mandala, third mandala, seventh mandala, how many times the Saraswati is mentioned, how many times Hindu is mentioned. So that kind of map you get. And when you do that, some of the data get rejected because they are not really rivers. So Kusava and then Prayayu and then Vaya, these are all not rivers like that. And then after filtering, what we do is in all the mandalas, the 6 to 10 mandalas, the sequence chronologically, newly discovered, the first time references of each river we mentioned. That is where we start getting the migration pattern, like Haryupya, Yavavadi, Ganga, and Saraswati, the 6th mandala itself. That is, Haryana is in focus. Then you have Drishadvati, Apaya, Sududri, Vipash, and Jannavi. So since Sududri and Vipas came, then there is a westward motion to Punjab. Then you have Asikni, Parushni, etc. Of course, Yamuna is also there, but Asikni, Parushni means there is a motion towards, again, westwards into the Pakistan side of Punjab. Then you have Sindhu, Vibali. So Sarayu Rasa, that is up to Indus River we have covered actually. So like that, we get a continuous westward motion towards Afghanistan side. And then see here, we focus on some of the place names mentioned in the Rigveda, not only the rivers. So the most ancient places mentioned in the Rigveda is Manusha and Ilaspada. So these are two locations in the Kurukshetra region, northern Haryana, and very close to the Kaital city. And there was a river flowing called the Apaya River, one of the tributary of Saraswati. And Saraswati itself is very flowing, very close by. It's a very detailed map. This is a little more like a zoom out map of the region. So you can see the Saraswati Nadi here, Saraswati, and then you have see the Drishadvati Nadi. And in between there is a rectangular region. This is the proper Kurukshetra. And Kurukshetra is a region inside the Mahabharata, etc. It's not a city that whatever today's modern city of Kurukshetra is just a new city that is built very recently. But whatever Kurukshetra mentioned in the Mahabharata, that is a very big region in the northern Haryana, and there are 4 corners of that Kurukshetra mentioned. And the same Kurukshetra is mentioned as Nabha Prithivya and Vara Prithivya in the Rigveda, because the name Kurukshetra itself was later to the Rigveda, at least the late Rigvedic part. Like King Kuru came and then he named it the Vara Prithivya as Kurukshetra. And from the northern border of the Kurukshetra, you have Saraswati, and the southern border you have Drishadvati, like that. So this is just a glimpse of the geographical map. So you can see inside the Rigveda. So this is the central region of the Rigveda where the Bharata kings, the cradle of the civilization, the Rigvedic civilization, where the Bharata kings become dominant and slightly they spread from here to all over the all over the Rigvedic region first, then to the all of the northern India, and then the throughout India as well. That is how we got the name Bharata. So everything started from here. So there are these oldest places mentioned in the Rigveda, means that oldest places mentioned in our literature itself, because Rigveda is the oldest text. So oldest places mentioned in the oldest text means the oldermost place names, that is the Manusha and Ilaspada. The first one is related to Manu, and the second one is related to Manu's daughter Ila. The oldest personalities mentioned in our literature, that is Manu and Ila. And Manu is there is the places related to Manu, Manusha in this region. And Manu's daughter Ila, Ilaspada is also in the region. And there is a goddess called Bharati, goddess named Bharati, very praised a lot in the Rigveda, which is the patron goddess of Bharata. She is also established in the Bharati Tirtha. So there are 3 sacred points inside the Kurukshetra. That is why it is very sacred region. And this region is called Varaprithivya in the central region. And then these are the some other we focus on the river hydrology about the Hari-Upi and Yavyavati 2 rivers. So that all focused come to focus in our and Saptasindhu region. That is the region, the Punjab region, where 2 rivers are lost. That is why it became Punjab. Earlier it was Saptasindhu. There were 7 rivers, out of which 2 are lost, and then it becomes Saptasindhu. It becomes Punjab. Punjab means 5 rivers. Saptasindhu means 7 rivers. The lost rivers, one of them is Marudvritha. That is a dried up. Now it got dried up. Another river is Vibali. It got dried up. So we are reduced to 5 rivers. And then, of course, we go to various different people. It is not at Janapada. Janapada is a term which can be applied only in the Aitihasic period, after the Rigvedic period. But the rudiments of proto-Janapadas are there. Proto-Janapada means just they are going to be in evolutionary stage, they are going to become Janapadas or kingdoms. So proto-Janapadas, like Kikada is one of the kingdom mentioned in the proto-kingdom mentioned in the Rigveda. And its migrations are mentioned because of the military action of Vishwamitra. They are migrating to from Yamuna to Ganga, east of Ganga. All these things are discussed. And each river, like various rivers like Sindhu, and the migrations. Because this migration is, of course, not only in the Rigvedic period, but the subsequent period of Aitihasic period. There are migrations of Kikadas from the Ganga region to the Magadha region, where they established the Magadha Janapada. And there are migrations of other Janapadas like Matsyas. So oldest reference to Matsyas, they are referred in the Yamuna region. Of course, there is a glimpse of it in the Mahabharata, where Satyavati is mentioned as a Matsya princess, and she is in the Yamuna region. That is only a glimpse, but otherwise the Matsyas are seen in the Virata Nagari in the Rajasthan. So that migration also we trace in the Rigveda. During the period of Sudas, they were living here, and the Matsyas were one of the enemies of Sudas that he defeated in the Yamuna region. And then they migrated to the Virata Nagari and established the Matsya kingdom of Virata during the Mahabharata period. And similarly, there are so many local rivers inside the Haryana region, like Sifa, Anjasi, Kulsi, like that. Sifa is our Sahibi river in the Delhi, and so many other. So that kind of information we get. And the Chedis, Chedi is also another proto kingdom. They were living in the Saraswati region. From there, they migrated like this to the eastern direction, and finally reached their permanent destination in the Bundelkhand region. So this is also we focus. And we found out some of the earliest settlements mentioned in the Ganga region inside the earliest part of the Rigveda in the 6th mandala. And also noted the migration of the Yadavas, because how they reached Mathura and how they reached the Dwaraka region. So all this we actually focus. And another thing is the Kushika. So many people may not be knowing. The lineage of Vishwamitra is a Bharata lineage. And it started after what I mentioned. Vishwamitra actually did a military expedition to attack the Kikadas, and then slowly they migrated like this to Kaushambi, Kanyagupja. So at some point in the Itihasa, you see Vishwamitra is the king of Kanyagupja, because they migrated. The Kushika lineage of Vishwamitra migrated from the Saraswati region to Kanyakubja, and later on we see Kaushiki Nadi in Bihar. So this is the terminal point of the Vishwamitra migration, the Kushika migration, where they reached up to Kaushiki river. So that is why the river itself is named as Kaushiki, because it is related to the Kushikas. So I think I will move very fast to conclude the session. So we have so many such migrations here, like how the Kuru Pandavas migrated, then the Dasharajana battle, how the battle of Dasharajana, the 10 kings, how they laid out. And this is the Parushni river, that is the Ravi river or Iravati river in the Punjab border. So that's also we are focusing. And how the Puru, the Puru Samvarana, the ancestor of the Pandavas, got expelled from this region, how he got asylum in the with the Ikshwaku, the territory, that is the Western Sarayu region. So all this we are tracing in some river hydrology, river dynamics, like how the different rivers changed course. This is like the western tributaries of Sindhu, how they changed course in the different parts of the mandalas between 10th mandala and 4th and 5th mandala. And then very importantly, the Ikshwaku migration, how the Ikshwakus, the ancient Manu people migrated from the southern ocean, Dakshina Samudra, to this Saraswati region, and then they split into two branches, one migrating to the western Sarayu, the western Gomati and western Sarayu, another migrating to the eastern Gomati, eastern Gomati and eastern Sarayu. So the Gomati and Sarayu are signatures of the Ikshwakus. There are two branches of the Ikshwakus. Rama's ancestry is to this side, to the eastern side, whereas the Ikshwaku kings mentioned in the Rigveda, like Prasadasyu and Purugutsa, they are in this particular Sarayu. That's why both Sarayus are different. The Sarayu prominently mentioned in the Rigveda is the western Sarayu, or a tributary of the Sindhu, and the kings mentioned in this western side, they are called Trikshis, and they are Prasadasyu and Purugutsa are the two major kings. But in the Ramayana, we have two other kings, that is Dasharatha and Rama. They are actually into the eastern Sarayu, and they are the prominent kings of the eastern side, and they are prominently focused in the Ramayana. So this is how the Ramayana and Rigveda are connected. And we also do some collaboration with Ramayana, Mahabharata, Rigveda, everything. See the corroborating Rigveda and Ramayana. All this we do, but I will detail it in a kind of a later session. For this webinar, we will limit to this much level of detail. And so many other migrations. You can see how the different ancestors of Rama migrated to different parts of the Yamuna river. You have Amshuman, because of which the Yamuna is called Amshumati. And then Dilipa and then Bhagiratha migrating Ganga and naming it Bhagirathi. And slowly it goes up to Ayodhya. So those, and there is the triple corroboration between Rigveda, Ramayana, and Mahabharata. All this are actually. And we also slightly corroborate the Avestan text, that is a Vedyadad, and trace out the 16 lands of the Ahuras, which are mentioned in the Vedyadad. So Ahuras turned out to be the Asuras mentioned in our Puranas, and complete migratory trail of the Ahuras are actually captured slightly into the like a little bit of it captured in the Rigveda, and then little bit in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, and slightly little bit in the Puranas. And the same thing is mentioned in Avestan texts like Vedyadad. And how these some of the tribes, Paktas and Phalanas, mentioned in the Dasarajana battle, how they are currently located. They are the Pakhtuns or the Pashtuns, and Phalanas are the Baluchistan people. So all this we can get actually. And some of the western rivers, the Kabul River, and the Krumu, that is Kurram River, and the western side, Gomati and Mehatnu River. Gomati is a Gomal River in the Pakistan. That is the western side, Gomati, etc. And again, the different migratory patterns of the Ikshwakus to the western, the eastern side, all this. And similarly, there is because the rivers keep on changing their course, right? So some dynamics between Sarayu and two other rivers, Arjigi and Sushoma, all this. And then the Kashmir rivers, Tatsama, Shushaltu, Shwetya, which are in the Kashmir side, the Ladakh region. And this is also the place where the Sharamapani episode unfolds in the Kashmir region. And you have some minor rivers like Suvastu, Gauri, Svetyavari, and Ashmanvadi. Ashmanvadi is a complete proper Afghan river, Ashmanvadi. It is a tributary of the Kubha river. And then we focus on the ocean. I mentioned four different oceans. So this is the Purva Samudra, then Apara Samudra. Like that, 4 samudras are mentioned in the Rigveda. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is also our one of the chapters we focus on it. And we also traced out the land, the trade relationship, the sea and land trade. The trade both in the sea side with Mesopotamia as well as through Panis, the Panis in the Kashmir, it is traded with the Chinese side also. So both civilization, the Chinese civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization had some kind of trade. A little bit of it captured in the Rigveda in a very indirect manner. And of course, some later migrations of Kosala to Videha, etc., is also reflected with by corroborating with the Brahmanas like Shadapata Brahmana, etc., is mentioned. And of course, this Ashmavraja is a region, a new region, very close to the end of the 10th mandala. The Rigveda start talking more and more about Afghanistan and talks about Ashmavraja region along Ashmanvadi river. So that means already they have migrated to the Afghanistan. That is complete, like as I mentioned, out of India theory, complete support for the out of India theory. 10th mandala, they reached up to Afghanistan. Yeah. So yes, so this detail about Saramapani location in the Kashmir region, etc. And of course, towards the 10th mandala period, there was a dryness. There is large amount of mention about dry areas coming up. And this is also a reason for the desiccation of Saraswati, etc. So the Rigveda mentioned multiple desert regions formation, etc. in the late Rigvedic period, towards the end of the Rigveda, like Thar Desert and Cholistan Desert and the marshy desert that is formed very close to the Ran of Kutch. Everything is reflected in the Rigveda. And here is the entire migrations consolidated, which shows you a bidirectional migration from Saraswati to the western side. This is our out of India migration, which lead to the propagation of the Indo-European languages into Central Asia, Iran, and Europe. And this is the internal migration in the eastern direction, which is actually what the archaeologists find, that there is a migration from Saraswati to Bihar in the west to east direction. So the archaeologists were confused because they think that this west to east migration is actually continuing from all over from Central Asia, but that is not true. Both the migrations originate from Saraswati, and from Saraswati to westwards to Central Asia and Saraswati to eastwards to Bihar. That is the clarity we get. And here we completely corroborate the Harappan geography with the Rigvedic geography and completely ascertain that both of them are same geography. And here we study the growth of the ore-colored pottery, which is the kind of foundation for the Aitihasic period of Rama and the Pandavas. And very nicely we get it, as a continuity from the late Rigvedic period. And this leads to an absolute chronology of Rigvedic mandalas, like that. Yeah, and there are certain atlases, etc., that we mentions inside the entire course. So that is our overall a kind of summary of the course, and which we consolidate into 1 hour into this webinar, and we can look for some discussions as well.
Wow. Are you going to be able to do all of this in one course? There was so much information. Amazing. We have questions coming in. Dr. Ravi, amazing presentation. A lot of it very interesting and new to me, even though we had that previous conversation, the detail that you got into. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Put them in the Q&A box, not in the chat. And we'll take some time to answer questions, get into it, because I know a lot of people have questions. Nella from Vienna, Austria, thank you for joining. Vijay Khanna, Friends of HUA, Houston area. If you don't know about the Friends of HUA, please join. Thank you, Sophia, for joining from Brazil. Now, some of the kind of contextual questions, because you have so much knowledge, you take it for granted. Our audience may not know some of the basics, and we're talking about geochronology and time frame. So Jaypati Ji is just asking, just what is the time span from Mandala 1 to 10? What is kind of the Western perspective? What are you proposing? What's the context in that conversation?
Yeah. So in terms of timelines of Rigveda, there are three main paradigms. So one is the Aryan invasion paradigm, out of in which as per them, the Rigveda is starting composition from 1500 BC, and the 10th mandala composed by 1000 BC. And we completely reject that chronology because we get a lot of evidence for the Rigveda, even 10th mandala, to be older than this 1900 BC. So in my studies, I found that the 10th mandala period itself has to be dated in 2000 BC or 1900 BC. So a conservative date of 1900 BC is what I put, but it can be 2000 BC as well. And from there, then I have the luxury of the lineages, the descendant and sister descendant relationship of the kings and the rishis. So that more or less goes to around 1500 or more than 1500 of years of gaps are there. I can see it. And of course, the chronology is not a perfect son father son relationship. There are gaps in between. So considering all these things, the oldest, the early, the sixth mandala is dated to around 3300 BC. So 3300 BC to 2300, then 1000 years. And from there, a little more to 1900 BC. So 1400 years is what the we have considered as a span of the entire Rigvedic period, which covers all the father-son relationship and sister descendant relationship between the kings, as well as in the lineage of kings, as well as the lineage of Rishi Munis. So ascetic lineage is also there, royal lineage is also there. So 1500 BC is a 1400 years, that is 1400 years, is good enough chronological width of the Rigveda from the earliest 6th mandala to the late youngest 10th mandala period. So the chronology bracket that is proposed is 3300 BC to 1900 BC. And of course, is there any variation possible? Yes. The younger part is more or less very frozen, almost like a frozen thing, because it is connected with the Kurukshetra war, and subsequently Kurukshetra war is connected with the Mahapadmananda, etc. There are equations for that, because Parikshit, the grandson of Pandavas, is born just 1 year after the Kurukshetra war. And there are statements in the Puranas, that is almost all major Puranas like Vayu Purana, Matsya Purana, and Vishnu Purana, and Bhagavata Purana. All the Puranas carry this information that Mahapadmananda, that is Mahapadmananda is the founder of the Nanda dynasty. His coronation happened not more than 1500 years. There are variations, like some say that some Purana says 1015 years, others say 1050 years, yet others says 1150 years, and the longest duration allowance given is 1500 years. So we have taken the longest itself, so that because there could be some missing lineages, kings, etc. So the maximum gap between Parikshit birth and the coronation of Mahapadmananda, a historical king, is 1500 years. So we cannot arbitrarily locate these dates. So I have given a kind of a very solid date of 1793 BC for the Kurukshetra war, which is derived from two streams of disciplines. One is archaeology. So Dr. Sanjay Manjul dated it Kurukshetra war to between 1800 BC and 1700 BC. And astronomically, like using astronomy, archaeoastronomy, and astronomy data in the Mahabharata, Dr. Ashok Bhatnagar gave a date of 1793 BC. So both are very much aligned with each other. So one astronomy date and archaeology date aligned with each other. So it's a very sheet anchor date, that is 1793 BC, which is the Austara consensus. That is what the date we have proposed, which is a very solid date. And based on that, Shantanu has to be dated to around 1940 BC. That is why the 10th mandala of the Rigveda we have to consider it as ending by 1900 BC. Correspondingly, 3300 BC as the period of the 6th mandala. But here we should not confuse that we are restricting the entire civilization into 3300 BC. That is not the case, because in the Rigveda itself, the entire lineage from Manu, Yula, Pururasa, Ayush, Nakusha, Yayati, then Puru's descendants up to Bharata are considered as older than the 6th mandala of the Rigveda. They are all older kings. Rigveda itself mentioned these rajas as living in some ancient period. So that means our civilization definitely go beyond the 3300 BC, which is the composition starting period of Rigveda, as much as up to 8000 BC.
Wow. Okay. I knew that was a big question at the start, and you gave a nice full answer. Thank you for the. Chetanji is saying it is like drinking from a fire hose. Awesome presentation. So much information. Mohan Chalani from Orlando was talking about how the Sindhu River people migrated towards the Ganges, right, west to east after the catastrophic floods of about 2700 BC. I think that's kind of what you were getting at, right? The east and the west, the migration, is that the same time frame?
Yes.
And then the
Yeah.
other thing, and maybe a little tangential, you may have heard about this, but this new series called Ancient Apocalypse, where have you heard about it? Ancient
Yeah, I will
Apocalypse, the
explain.
Netflix series where they go
I
into
will,
an ancient civilization and disappeared, or what happened. Just a little bit more on that time frame of the Saraswati River, the rivers drying up. Which way did people move? How do we know that? Also, people were asking about ISRO, the satellites. What is that data? How does that science kind of align and confirm this information?
yeah. So this the migration from the only thing is slight offset. It is not a migration from Sindhu, but the very near river Saraswati. So Saraswati was our epicenter point. From there are two bifurcations. So when the Saraswati river dried up, because Saraswati river was a rain-fed river. So that's another information very importantly we can get it from the early Rigveda onwards. The river was sustained by rains and not by snow. So that is the only river that got dried up. So the Saraswati river, large river, rain-fed river got dried up. And almost all around 60% of the IBC civilization was actually on the Saraswati, which we can see in the archaeological records. So that is why you have a migration both eastward and westward. And the eastward migration took us to Ganga and finally to the easternmost river Kaushiki, the Kosi river. Up to there is a migration recorded in our ancient texts like Rigveda and Shatapatha Brahmana, etc. And the westward migration, it took them from Saraswati to Sindhu river. And so from Sindhu river, some of them migrated because of battles. They migrated along the Kabul river to Afghanistan. And once they reached Afghanistan, which is just a mountain, they moved further and then they reached the plains of Central Asia and Iran, and like that they migrated westwards and reached up to Europe. So both the source of the westward migration, which we call out of India theory, and the eastward migration, which is inside India, they are all sourced from Saraswati. And about apocalypse, yes, there was a kind of global event of global dryness event called 4.2K event. That is 4,200 years from now. There was a big dryness event. It affected almost all the worldwide civilizations, and it affected our Rigvedic civilization as well. Rigvedic means Harappan civilization as well. As a result of it, I mean, so the desiccation, the partial driving up of Saraswati itself is caused by the 4.2K event, which actually affected us in 2200 BC, where the late Rigvedic period was going on. And if in all our literature, this is reflected. The actual climatologicals, they say there was no river, there was no rain for 60 years. For 60 long years, the rains were very, very feeble and less. And how it recorded in both in the Mahabharata and in Ramayana records as 12-year draft, 12-year aridity. So you can see in the Ramayana Anasuya mentioning about the 12-year Dwadasha Varshika, this dryness event. Mahabharata, multiple times it is mentioned. So this entire epoch of very less rain is very well recorded. Even in Rigveda, it is recorded. That is, I mentioned the dry lands, etc., which we can go through the course. We'll get in the late Rigvedic period. It is recorded as dryness happening in the desert regions. And the Mahabharata Raman records 12-year no rain years without any dry events, dry years of 12 years, and multiple 12-year dryness occurred in our civilization.
Wow. Again, one question, a fountain of information. I mean, this is what the course is going to be. I'm dropping details of the course in the chat right now, the Geochronology of the Rigveda. Please take a look. It's going to be on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern time to 12:30 It's going to start January 11th. Let me launch a quick poll. Please let us know if you're interested in enrolling in the course. I think this is the last week for the retreats that are coming up at the end of December. Still have those questions up, but please let us know if you're interested in this course, and maybe now is a good time to just talk about the course a little bit. Nina was asking, do you follow a syllabus from week to week? The grading process, what are you expecting from the students? How do you see the course kind of rolling out, and how much time commitment will students have? And of course, everything will be on our learning management system. So our previous students know that it's easy to access. You get the Zoom links. There'll be recordings of the courses if you miss it, but we do encourage live attendance. Assignments will be posted there. But Dr. Ravi, why don't you go over kind of the course outline? What are the expectations? What you're going to ask the students to do and learn about, and how much time they're committing?
Yes. So basically, we structure the course almost in the same way as the book. So I would request everybody as one of the first primary activity to go to the Amazon store and buy the book Rivers of Rigveda, which and familiarize with the chapters inside that. Ankurji has provided the link to the course. If I can check. Yeah, so that's one thing, and it is a kind of 1.5 hours course in every weekend of Saturdays. It will be like evening for me, and it will be morning period for in the US geography. I mean, subject to the Pacific and Eastern time, the variations. So that will be the kind of the structures, and in terms of the number of weeks, if I'm correct, it is kind of running into a kind of a dozen of weeks, and I'm not
Yeah, I
very
think it'll
clear
be
about it, but
11, depending
yeah,
if it's a holiday
11
or not.
weeks. Yeah, 11 weeks. And if I just maybe I can share this course details. Give me a moment.
Yeah. Arun Narayanan, one of our very dedicated students, says he already has all 4 books. Is it still good to join the course? You're with the author. Of course, it's going to be good to join the course and ask your questions. And Arunji, I know your course mates appreciate you in classes and the ad that you have. So glad that you already have the book. And so this is looking at a different course. This is the Ayurveda Art of Fast.
Oh, okay. So I don't know where it does now.
I can share
Yeah,
screen.
yeah.
So this is the link to the course, right? The course description. It's going to be a $300 course. We have scholarships for India-based students, Caribbean-based students, some other folks. So here's some details. Do you want to get into this part right here?
Yeah. That's what I was looking at. Yeah. So the kind of objectives we have is learn the fundamental structure of Rigveda and comprehend the basic Rigvedic chronology. So we just glimpsed it in this seminar, this webinar, and then the Rigvedic kings, rishis, and devatas. Again, we have seen in a glimpse of it, and analyze the regions of the Rigvedic geography, like Sapta Sindhu, etc. And then the hydronyms. That's the core part of the book, and the course as well. The largest 70% of that our time will be dedicated to focus on the different various rivers mentioned in the Rigveda, like Saraswati, starting with Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, and the Punjab rivers, and then the rivers to the west of Sindhu, in Kashmir rivers, etc. So that's kind of the bulk of the analysis. And of course, in there we also get to connect with a lot of narratives. I think Itihasa, like narrative about Indra, about Ushas and other gods and goddesses, and also the events like Dasharajana battle and the various other aspects. So a lot of comparison is there, textual comparison with Rigveda to Ramayana, Rigveda to Mahabharata, and Rigveda to Avestan, that is Zoroastrian text. So these are also you can expect in this course. And then the final outcome, of course, the outcome will be very obvious in the beginning itself, is the out of India establishment of the out of India theory, or the refutation of the Aryan invasion or Aryan migration theory.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we are coming close to the end of our webinar. We have too many questions to get to all of them. I'm sorry, we're not going to get to all of them. Arunji, Oh yeah, is your work peer reviewed, Dr. Ravi? And then,
Yeah,
and in that context, there's other people are asking, what do you know about Nilesh Oak? Have you read this person's work? There's so many other figures in this space. I know you've read a lot of them, or probably all of them, and researched them.
yeah.
Lokmanya Ji's Tilak's scholarly book, and other people are Pramod Pathak, and people are name dropping. What about this person? What about that person? Shailesh Sagar. So if you want to just comment on that, and then the peer-reviewed aspect of it, yeah.
Yeah, right. So the book is kind of reviewed by the Indology scholars. So the biggest one of the biggest Indology scholars, that is Dr. Conradl, is have completely thoroughly analyzed the book, and is a big appreciator of my book. Similarly, Dr. Raj Vedam, he's also, I think, teaching in the university and in other courses. And then so many other researchers like Dr. David Fowley have analyzed the book. And then Subhash Kak recently, because when I was writing the book, Subhash Kak was not reachable, but after by my published book, he has read it and appreciated quite well. Another important personality is Dr. Bibek Debroy. He, after reading the book, he has given me a congratulatory note. And he, after reading the book, he agreed to write the foreword for my second book, that is Geography of Ramayana. So all these things are there in the in terms of peer review and appreciation of. But if you are asking about Western scholars, they have not yet started consuming this book. So, for example, if it is about Michael Witzel or other such scholars, then definitely the book has not reached to that level by which they just notice and started analyzing the data inside that. But it is very much well received inside the Indian scholarship, the Indian players. I mean, all the great leaders in our Indian side of Indology scholarships, like Dr. Conrad and Dr. David Fowley and Dr. Subhas Kak, Dr. Bibek Debroy, all these individuals. And of course, a big reception I got from the archaeologist community like Dr. Sanjay Manjul, because they were little bit confused about because our scholars always talk about out of India theory. That means the migration is from east to west. But in archaeology, when they dig in Uttar Pradesh, they get a direction from west to east. And so this way they were really confusing. And the archaeological people, they are normally they are not very aggressive. They silently work and say that in their mind that is a west to east migration from Central Asia, but they don't question or challenge. But after my book came, then they got, oh yeah, this is the real reason. Okay, the migration started from Saraswati. So wherever they are digging in Uttar Pradesh, they get the direction from west to east. But actually, the entire out of it, the how it went to Central Asia, it is from east to west. So that way, big appreciation came from the archaeological the community. They invited me to the many ASI events, as well as in the UNESCO event. Also, I was a speaker like that. So that's kind of in terms of peer review. And regarding other chronology, definitely yes, there are various other chronologies. Just like I mentioned about 1500 to 1000 BC Aryan invasion theory based chronology, which is compressed chronology. Other scholars like Nilesh or Rupa Bhatti, so they are interested because of their own passion. They are interested in 50,000 BC Rigveda, etc., which I don't endorse. And I hope that in my book as well as in my course, I will give a very valid reason why it is not very feasible, etc. So I position the chronology as a median chronology, and more or less the kind of late Rigvedic period, there is a very good clarity. But the early Rigvedic period, whatever I mentioned at 3000 BC, for example, maybe it can be 4000 BC also. There, I don't mind it, because the upper side of the chronology, there can be variations, etc. But I don't see any difference, any kind of variations, larger variation in the lower end of the chronology, that is in the 1900 BC.
Are we historicizing geography? Is that part of what's going on? And does that exacerbate that us versus them, right? People are honing in on their own facts and evidences. And then does that mean who's indigenous? Who's the alien culture? I know you've thought about this a lot. What are your thoughts about your work, and is it being, politicized? Is it being used? Or again, I know your perspective as a data person, as an information scientist, just kind of presenting the evidence and following it where it goes. But it's hard not to have opinions and ideas. And then, so how are you
Yeah.
approaching this?
Yeah. So unfortunately, every research, the hardcore researchers focus only on the data. So they are completely innocent about the political connotations of the research outcome. But then once the research come out, then it is definitely, it's a very natural phenomenon. It's politicized, and the Aryan invasion or the out of India theory, it's all politicized. Even the earlier books on that, Dr. The Srikant Talagari's book. So these are all full enriched with the data, but the people with political interest, they don't focus on any of this. They just tag it as something like a national Indian nationalism, etc. But I don't see that is a correct approach, and this is also the one reason why there is a severe block on some of the Western scholarship into properly addressing this kind of data-driven books, which they very plainly and very purely focus on the subject matter without focusing on the political part of it. They just give you a huge amount of data. But then that is not the way, many of the time the research is looked upon because of the highly politicized environment. And even there is a second book also on the geography of Ramayana. It has got so much of implication on the Dravidian politics, etc. And once the book become popular, especially in Tamil Nadu, then it will end the Dravidian politics in Tamil Nadu. So there are a lot of resistance in there because of that. I have seen. So yes, the research outcomes are often politicized, but this is despite the noble interest of the researcher themselves.
Wonderful. Great answer. Appreciate you. Let me just drop in the chat one more time. Geochronology of the Rigveda. Here's the link. Please do register. Mr. Bob Dobbin is saying he's new to this historical information as a non-Indian native. Could I start with this book and course, or are there some suggested prerequisites I should learn first? Well, Hindu University of America, we're offering all these courses so that people can plug in where they're interested, what they're interested in, the subject, with the faculty they like. This is definitely a heavy course. It seems like there's going to be a lot of information. And if you're not familiar with a lot of this, I think G is going to go through it and lead you through it. But we do have some orientation to Hindu studies course with Kalyanji, the president of the university. That's a good one to start at. But start where you feel comfortable. And if this is the course, please do consider enrolling. Bob, glad to have you on today. Arunji, Sophia. Last question, just because Sophia's a regular and she pinged me and she's asking, would you assert that the Daityas are Zoroastrians? You kind of mentioned Zoroastrianism a little bit and how that overlaps. Just some of that, if you can answer for Sophia from Brazil.
Yes. That's absolutely correct. So in the Rigveda, there is a kind of Pancha Janas, or the 5 people. Of that, Puru is basically the kind of founder of the Bharata, the ancestor of the Bharata lineage. And the Anu is a kind of branch which migrated westwards. And the Anu branch is represented in the Puranas into 2 categories as Daityas and Danavas. This is because there are so many such interconnections you can see. The Daityas and Danavas are collectively called Ahuras. And the same, they are collectively called Asuras with the Sa, that is pronounced with the Sa, which is in the Puranas. But the same group, the Anu group, is mentioned as Ahuras in the Zoroastrian text. So they are basically talking about the same kind of people. That is the Anu people who migrated from the Saraswati and the Sindhu region to Afghanistan and finally settled in Iran. And they authored the Zoroastrian text. So basically, whatever we call as these Daityas and Danavas, or collectively as Asuras, they are same as the Ahuras mentioned in the Zoroastrian text. And it doesn't just go up to that, like in the Zoroastrian text, the Indra, the primary god of Rigveda, is completely vilified and considered as a kind of opposition or kind of a demon. And all the Devas are considered as negative, and all the Asuras are considered as positive. So there is a complete mirror inversion of the philosophy and the theology inside the Zoroastrian text. So definitely, very, very clearly, like they are the Asuras and diversified into Daityas and Danavas.
Wow. Okay, last question, I promise, and Dr. Nageshji, because you stuck around, and this is kind of a basic question, right? What is the driving force for so many of these migrations? He's assuming it's around agriculture, the invention of it, looking for fertile lands. Is that the primary driver? What drove all these? And each migration probably has a different factor
Yes.
depending on who it
There
is
are,
and why, but just a
there are
general.
two drivers for the migration. One was the climatological reason, because there was a dryness and the river, the sustaining river, the mother river, the Saraswati dried up. So that was the major source of the migration. Another is the battles. So because if you look at the entire world population, if you divide into four quadrants, or four parts, 1/4 of the world population is in India, and 1/4 is China and Southeast Asian countries, and entire rest of Europe, America, North America, South America, everything included 1/4, and the remaining is Africa. That is how the entire population of the world is structured. That is, out of 8 billion people, 2 billion people live in the Indian subcontinent. That much big it is, and this is the current state. Not only that, in the past also it was the same. So there was a conflict for resources. So the Dasharajana battle is basically a conflict for resources. So as a result of it, not same people can live in the same. No, two kings cannot live in the same territory. So there is a conflict, and then the winners stay in the same territory, and the losers migrate. So that is why some of the westward migrations are because of that.
Wonderful. Okay, so please, if you did not fill out the poll, let us know if you're interested in taking the course. We still got almost 50 people with us. We had almost like 80 at the peak. Thank you for sticking around. Hope you will enroll in this course or another HUA course and join us for a future webinar. We're gonna have our fundraising event later today. Where else can you get this kind of information and knowledge? And bringing you faculty, speakers, experts, authors like Dr. Ravi. So Hindu University of America appreciates you joining today. Hopefully you'll join in the future and take Dr. Ravi's course. With that, let me hand it to Dr. Ravi for closing thoughts. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to host. I learned so much. So did our audience. Appreciate you so much. And let me hand it to you for closing thoughts. Thank you.
Yes. So thanks for hosting me, Ankur. It's kind of wonderful, having a discussion while I was part of the webinar. And I see the audience. I have to have special thanks to the viewers because they have asked very kind of pertinent questions, which are very much valid into the field. And I look forward for their participation in the subsequent lectures, the course. And it will not be a kind of a disappointing course. It's going to be intensive in terms of data and enriching into creating new paradigms, and a lot of questions related to the migrations, the origin of the Indo-European languages, or of course, the kind of patterns that you see in the archaeology, or so many questions related to Rigveda and the subsequent texts like the Itihasas. Everything gets resolved in this particular course.
Thank you, everyone. Dhanyavad. Have a good rest of your day.